Hey there, welcome to Healing Through Your Story. I am your hostess, Leslie Karen Hammond, known as the Empowering Story Whisperer. And this week, welcome to how to find the courage to run toward what you fear. Hey there, thanks for joining. So this topic, it was kind of funny writing. Oh my goodness! That was the first time that my phone has ever rang in the middle of a Facebook Live. Well, go figure. Anyway, I digress. So, this topic was, it was interesting because it prompted thought about, the women that I have seen who have been extremely courageous. I mean, like utterly fearless in terms of doing something that most people would just not even touch. I mean, take a look at, Mother Teresa and the way that she lived her life and the way that she was so passionate about what she was doing. And then Benazir Bhutto, I can remember very clearly when I just happened to be watching the news when she was assassinated. And then it prompted me to learn more about her, because a woman who stands for her convictions like that, and regardless of what kind of danger might be lurking, that is such a testament to the human spirit. So thank you so much for being here, whether you're catching us live or on the replay. I'm really grateful that you took a few moments to show up. And the purpose of these Facebook Lives is to shed light on a little something and to prompt either a new perspective or to help you gain an appreciation for the extraordinary woman that you are, because I know that you have a mission, and I know that you have been tested. Any of us who carry the light and are here to nurture others and to help support, it's like we're constantly getting tested and like barraged. It's almost like that shake the fist up in the air, like, really? One more thing? So my mission is to support you and to help to reinforce all of those amazing gifts that you have, and to let you know that regardless of whatever kind of crap that you're going through, it is all intended for a higher purpose. And any suffering, any pain, any discomfort, any challenges that you go through, it's all a learning process. It's all ultimately meant to help you be able to show up brighter and to show up stronger, to show up more courageously, and to continue to light the way for those women who are watching you, for those women who you impact every day, whether it's those in your family, in your churches, in your civic groups, in your communities, regardless of wherever it is. So I'm going to take a quick drink here. So how to run fearlessly into something that you're afraid of. Now, there may be a woman in your life that automatically comes to mind when you hear that term badass. Women who just hold nothing back. And I'd like to share with you a woman that, when I hear the word badass, immediately comes to mind. And her name is Theresa Younger. I had met her, it's got to be going on 7 or 8 years ago. And she used to be the director of a statewide organization that it was called the Permanent Commission for the Status of Women. And the charge of this organization was to be an advocate for women's rights, whether it was equality in the workplace, whether it was pay equality, whether it was, reproductive rights. And in fact, under her supervision, that organization was able to have Connecticut have the first Family Leave Act in the country. Excuse me. So this woman, just amazing. And I also know her from Girl Scouts of Connecticut. So thanks to her, I became a board member for this statewide organization, which I'm so grateful for. Well, just to take that badassery just a little bit farther, she now is the CEO for the Ms. Foundation. That's the organization that Gloria Steinem started. And Theresa now travels all over the country. She's been to the White House a few times, and I mean, she's constantly advocating for women. Now, if you ever wonder, what is it that fuels someone that, regardless of whatever potential consequences may come up in the course of, their journey and their advocacy, what drives a woman to do such things where she could suddenly be the target for criticism, danger even, and certainly, like ridicule, whether it be from, family members who question, her values because she's taking risks, or from people who just don't get it and just don't understand. So, and when I say that, usually the thing that comes to mind is a lot of guys that would say something about a really courageous woman or a fearless woman, and they would be like, that chick is crazy, or she doesn't know what she's doing. And that's because they have no frame of reference on how to deal with a really powerful woman who can hold her own. So, that's just too bad for them. Well, the thing that drives women like that, women like you, to do things that some people won't even dream of, they just won't even touch, it's really one of two things. It's because there is a much greater need to serve. There is an injustice that you've seen, and you get to a point where you just say, you know what? I am not going to stand by in the sidelines and watch this continue to happen any further, because the more that I see this happen, the more it makes my skin crawl. So for me, that's women who won't speak up, women who can't find the courage yet to find their voice and to speak their truth. It's women who feel unworthy, women who are ashamed of their story. I mean, I've been advocating for women like that for 18 years because it got to a point when, oh, hey there, thanks for joining. My friend from across the pond in London, boy, she's up late. So it's women who just really have a drive because they've seen an injustice in the world. So that is one thing that will drive a woman to do something that other women just, they won't even go there. They're happy in the status quo. Now, if you're happy with the status quo, then okay, well, then I'm happy for you because, maybe you're comfortable. But if you don't like status quo, if you don't adopt that, and if it just makes you crazy, then shout out thumbs up or thumbs down, or type in no status quo, because status quo is what's going to keep people silent. And Jenny says, shh, don't tell anyone I'm still awake. Okay, I promise I won't tell anyone. But so here's the thing. Now, either you can be an advocate for no longer tolerating the status quo, or the second thing that drives women to do something that just most people would not want to do. And so my dear sister-in-law, Lori, who is also joining us today, women like Lori, they continue to go on, and Jenny for that matter too, because that whatever shit you're going through, on the other side, it's a greener pasture, so to speak. So really, those are the two biggest driving forces that get women to do things that appear really courageous, but a lot of times it's just out of a need because they just can't tolerate anymore watching an injustice happen. Now, here's something that may have happened to you a time or two. And I can chuckle about it now, but when it happened, I didn't really enjoy it. So there's been things that you've probably gone through in your life, been kind of difficult, and someone has come up to you and said, "You are such a strong woman." And I'll tell you, I got to the point where I really got tired of hearing that. It was like, please do not call me a strong woman again, because, people mean it out of respect, but we don't always, or as a compliment rather, but we don't always take it that way, because if somebody's calling us a strong woman, that usually means that we're going through like a really dark patch and we're not giving up. That regardless of whatever is happening, we may feel like we're just barely keeping our head above water, but we're still plugging along. We're still plugging along and going through because we believe that there's something better on the other side. And, regardless of whatever you're going through, I give you my love. I send my prayers, because there is growth that happens in the midst of all of that. And I hate to be the one to say this, but ultimately, those tests that we go through, they never really come to an end. But the difference is the way that we approach them as time goes on. So the more we get tested, the more we understand that, okay, this is something that, all right, I can deal with. And if I have to recalibrate, or how's that industry saying go, pivot. If I have to pivot a little bit, okay, that's cool. I can do that. Not the end of the world. And then we move on. So I just want to check something here, make sure I don't forget. Oh, moving on. What a great segue. So here's another thing about women who just go through all kinds of things and are absolutely fearless looking, is that once a woman does that, and I'm sure that you know women like this, it's almost as though they go through it, they're right on to the next thing so quickly. They don't take any time to turn around and look back, and they don't necessarily stand there and preach what they've done. They'll just move on to the next thing, because there's more injustice to fight. There are more people to inspire. There's more work to do. So the women who tend to be practically fearless and just constantly moving through things that are difficult, they tend not to look back. Now, two things that are important to acknowledge with that not looking back piece is that if you don't at least acknowledge what you've done and then celebrate it, even if it's like a little tiny celebration, but if you don't acknowledge it and you don't celebrate it, then there's a piece of you that's not being acknowledged, and that's really important. So I have to chuckle, because just earlier today, oh, well, you know what? For our viewers out there, I will share this little tidbit of information because it's not completely public yet. Speaking of, and there's a segue to this into the women that just constantly push forward and don't acknowledge or celebrate. So almost 2 weeks ago, I was notified that I got chosen to participate in a cultural grant that I'm super excited about, because it means that I will be teaching women how to find their voice, woohoo, right up my alley, in China for 5 weeks. Talk about an, oh my gosh, can't wait to do this kind of moment. So the segue into the woman who doesn't look back. So today, I'm on the phone with someone who works at the local newspaper, and we were talking about business for another friend of mine, and so he asks me like what I do. So I tell him that I am a spiritual master and ceremonialist, and that I'm really passionate about helping particularly health coaches, energy workers, and yogis like find their voice, come to terms with their story, so they can serve their clients on a deeper level. And so then, towards the end of the conversation, I say to him, so tell me who I need to reach out to, at the paper in regard to press releases. And he says, it's funny that the way his tone changed. So at first he says, well, the press releases are kind of like catch as catch can, and, it's almost like a crapshoot. Sometimes they might, be published, sometimes not. And I said, well, so if I did want to submit a press release, who would I direct that to? So he gives me the guy's name, and then, he says, depending on like what category it falls in, whether it's education or he listed a few other things I can't remember, but regardless of he says whatever it falls in, you give it to this guy, he'll make the determination as to like who he should feed it out to, and then the reporters either will or won't maybe do a story on it. And I said, oh, okay, well, thanks for the heads up on that. I said, well, what's happened is, I said I was selected from, a handful of women across the country to help women find their voices and to teach in China for 5 weeks. And he's like, holy smokes! And so that made me feel really good. So I said, I won't know more until I go to a training in Phoenix next week. And next month rather. And he said, oh, well, when you come back from Phoenix, he said, that's a great time to reach out. And he says, and the headline would be New London Woman, or local New London woman chosen to teach in China. And the guy got super excited about it, which I didn't foresee coming. And then he says, so if you, if you pass the information on to me too, he says, I'll do whatever I can to share it. So right after that happened, I'm like all excited. I'm bouncing in my seat. I texted my husband. I mean, I didn't realize he was in a meeting. I texted him like, hey, can you talk for 2 seconds? And he goes out of his meeting to call me because I never text him to ask if he can talk. So I was really excited at that point. So going into the segue of not looking back. So after about, I don't know, maybe I treated myself to a whole 5 minutes of, being really giddy and happy. And then I went about the rest of my day because I had to do some paperwork for this organization, and like talk about nose to the grindstone. So I got so completely immersed and buried in what I was working on that like nothing else mattered. It was one of those, like focus, you need the blinders, don't talk to me, got to get this done. And a little bit later on, my husband comes into the room, he's laying on the couch and he's, getting ready to talk to me. And he refers back to what happened earlier in the day. And he's like, wow, wasn't that so cool that you talked to that person at the paper? And, they were like really excited about sharing, your experience. And I was so focused on what I was working on. I didn't even look at him. I was just like, I can't even think about that right now. And I just like let it go and continued to work on what I was working on. So I invite you the next time that you do something that is courageous or something that is worth acknowledging, just take a few minutes and appreciate it, because the other women in your life will, and men for that matter, will also appreciate the fact that you're taking time and you're acknowledging, and that's helping you like stand in your own power. Very important. So I want to make sure, and I always leave this towards the end, but I want to invite you to check out the free gift this week, which is how to navigate the fine line between crazy and courageous, or courageous and crazy, whichever way you prefer to say it. And you can go to LeslieKarenHammond.com/17 download. Keep it real easy. LeslieKarenHammond.com/17 download. And on that, there are 3 things for you to consider when there's something that you are just getting ready to leap into, and you might be a little concerned about how people are going to view that, and what are some good ways to make sure that you keep your energy and your enthusiasm up. So I invite you to go and check it out. Excuse me. And just to go back around here a little bit in terms of the difference between courageous and crazy. So one of the reasons that women do things that appear fearless is not necessarily because they want to, it's because they have to. Because watching some kind of an injustice continue will eat away at them a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. If you know anyone who is, like, say, a runner, for example, they may not actually like to run. And if you ask them, why do you run? And they'll say, I don't run because I want to. I run because I have to. So for those of you who are on the cusp of doing something that people may say you're absolutely crazy to do, my hat's off to you. So many blessings go out to you, because I know that you're meant to do what you need to do. And yes, I will post the freebie link so you can download it. Yes, Jenny, happy to do that. So please be careful who you listen to and surround yourself with folks who can support you, because that fine line between crazy and courageous can easily be identified as crazy if you are not in the company of people who believe in you. And when women are here to serve because of something that happened in their life, and they have a need to help inspire others, to save them pain, to save them time, to save them money, it becomes more than an act of passion. It becomes a necessity. The reason I started helping women find their voice is because I went from an incredibly independent young woman into a marriage that I was controlled, where I totally lost my voice. The young woman who ran away from home at 16 and then decided to move across the country and make her way, to be able to all of a sudden become this person who listens to everything her husband does and is the good little girl and stops voicing her opinion, that was a huge, huge learning, huge lesson in my life. And once I got the courage to get that divorce, to move out of the relationship because it wasn't healthy, then the mission got ever more clear as time went on. And just like when you get a red car, you start to drive a red car, and then you notice red cars everywhere, all around you. Well, this is the same thing when you decide to come to terms with something that's really bothering you, and you decide that it's necessary for you to advocate for it. And then before you know it, everywhere you look, you're going to find people. It's almost like you connect to the vibration of that on a much stronger level. It's practically magnetic. So you'll notice the need for people to be inspired by your story and by what you went through. You just can't help it. It's the universe that is guiding you and is showing you these little ahas and all of these people who, could be helped by you. So, how to run towards something that you're afraid of? Do it with love. Do it with conviction. Do it from a place of service where you know you're going to make an impact in the world. That's how you do it. That's how you continue to hold the torch when things get really difficult, and when people don't believe in you, and when you are so exhausted you just can't move, and when people become naysayers or haters, or tell you, you got no right doing that, or ask you, and this is one of my all-time favorite questions, who do you think you are? Well, boy, have I got news for people when they start to ask me that question. But that's how you move into something that you're afraid of. If you do it out of an act of service, it will get easier, and you will find that you are supported by the universe. I'm so grateful. Thank you that you made the time to come and join live, or if you're catching this on the replay, I invite you to check out the free gift, How to Navigate the Fine Line Between Courageous and Crazy, and I will post the link here. It's at LeslieKarenHammond.com/17 download. So if you enjoyed what you saw today, please like the page if you haven't liked it already, and share, because the more women that we can collectively empower across the globe, the better. So much love and light to you. I look forward to catching up with you next week. Mwah! Many blessings. Bye for now.